or some individual investors who might be in the close period. So they might not be necessarily allowed to trade in that particular period up until the results are out. So you find that the performance as well as the activity is normally affected. So if you compare even with January last year, the return, even though it was positive, it was quite minimal at around 1.84%.
Yeah.
So that is the trend that is noted, and that was the performance of the first month of January 2022.
How does the outlook look like? We are now in February, we'll be going to March, and we will be done with the first quarter. How is the outlook in terms of this month and the first quarter, and of course maybe in the second quarter?
For the first quarter, I think we'll continue to notice that same trend where perhaps the activity as well as the performance will be a bit subdued, mostly because that you find that most of the results of the companies will start coming out after March. That's when you find most of the institutions, especially those in the financial sector, they'll normally start publishing by the end of March up until June. So because of that activity, you find that there's quite a number of trades that happen, but also there's that possibility of the movements that happen in the share prices. And that, of course, will depend on how the companies themselves perform.
Yes.
So looking at the outlook of 2022, I think overall we also look back at what is the outlook for the macroeconomic environment.
Yes.
So I think we currently are projecting as a country that I think there will be that economic growth to around 4.1% compared to where we're coming from, where we had around 3% to 3.9% growth, and even 0.9% in the other year.
Yes.
So with that trajectory, I think that should also be reflected in how the companies perform, because as you know, if the environment is conducive for business, then the possibility that those companies also perform well also increases, and that will essentially be reflected even in the prices of the shares. But we do realize that there's some risk factors, downside risks that are there. I think the most prominent one being inflation.
Yes.
And that is a global trend that we've seen in most markets, even the developed world, where we're seeing that due to the disruptions that were caused by COVID in the supply chains, and that has caused quite a number of bit of inflation in most countries, and for Malawi especially, because we do import that inflation, especially now it also has an impact on the exchange rate and other issues.
Yeah.
So that is one of the key risk factors that we're observing, but we are confident that we'll be able to maintain it.
Still on the stock market, one of the 16 listed companies, Illovo Sugar Malawi, saw its share price gaining by about 117.8% in the year 2021. This according to financials released last week by the company. We have the detail in this report.
The Illovo Financial Annual Report indicates that the share price for the company at the beginning of the financial year was at 80 kwacha 50 tambala per share, and moved to 94 kwacha 50 tambala per share at the half of the year, then to 179 kwacha 29 tambala per share at the end of the year. The increase, which the company says represents market capitalization of 125.1 billion kwacha, has moved the company from a price loss position to a price gainer. The local biggest manufacturer of sugar has since reported a financial dividend of 2.5 billion kwacha for the year under review, in addition to an interim dividend of 2.9 billion kwacha, representing 4 kwacha per share, and a second interim dividend of 7.1 billion kwacha, representing 10 kwacha per share. The report adds that this payment to the company's stakeholders was possible through initiatives which included continued improvement in business performance and good financial management, resulting in significant reduction of net debt. The company hopes that the economic environment will continue to improve so that the trend on payment of dividends can continue while the company retains an optimum net debt position. Speaking to journalists last week, the company's managing director Lekani Katandula, however, said that the company's good luck is dimmed by the effects of Tropical Storm Anna, which has destroyed some of the company's equipment. Ilovo Sugar Malawi says its operations have not been spared from the effects of the tropical storm which had hit the country more than 2 weeks ago, especially in the southern region. According to Katandula, even though the impact is yet to be determined, the storm, which resulted in floods, has affected their sugarcane fields, irrigation infrastructure, dikes, and state roads, among others. However, apart from affecting Ilovo's equipment, the floods have affected electricity generation by Genco, as it has knocked out Kapichira power plant, which contributes 32% to the national grid. Katandula added that the only things that have not been affected are the factory and warehouse, together with sugar that was in storage. He, however, assured investors that as management, they will do their best to sustain the company's performance. Ilovo is a public listed company and the highest producer of sugar in the country for local consumption and exports.
Remember, this is Business Time. It's a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. And my name is William Umwembe. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Business Time, a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. And moving on with the program. On Tuesday, President Lazarus Chakwera appeared before Parliament to answer some of the questions posed by the parliamentarians. One of the key areas that was focal and topic of discussion was Malawi's strides towards attaining the industrialization mark. The president said the country is moving towards a state where the economy would be fully industrialized and ensuring that the country is making the most of a thriving private sector. Our Justin Mkweo has been following the proceedings and has since filed this report.
Blantyre City Centre parliamentarian Chibiriro Mpinganjira asked Chakwera a question on setting up industries for jobs and export of Malawian manufactured goods, expansion of cities, and realization of the Malawi 2063 agenda. In response, Chakwera said the government has allocated 624 hectares of land where foundations of industrialization will be laid. He said in Lilongwe, 420 hectares have been identified for special economic zones that will focus on agro and food processing and manufacturing, among others. He added that in Mzuzu, 53 hectares have been allocated for an industrial park, and that will focus on manufacturing and timber industry. In the eastern region, the government has already embarked on plans to develop the Nankumba Peninsula and other projects for tourism. The Malawi leader believes this will create 240,000 jobs.
The Special Economic Zones and Industrial Park program is therefore the main vehicle for accelerating the achievement of the national industrialization agenda, while the regional focus will support the growth of the regional hubs, Blantyre, Lilongwe, Mzuzu, Mangochi. Madam Speaker, to guide the development and operation of these zones, the bill has already been developed and the accompanying regulations will be developed in the shortest period of time. The bill will be brought into the August House in the next sitting of Parliament for the honorable members' consideration and approval. Through the development of special economic zones, Madam Speaker, my government expects to create at least 240,000 jobs, as well as increase industrial production for import substitution and export development. This is one of the vehicles my government will use to achieve industrialization in the country, as well as reduce the widening trade balance. Madam Speaker, let me hasten to state that the micro, small, and medium enterprises, MSMEs, will be part and parcel of the operations in the special economic zones. Furthermore, my government will advocate for the creation of secondary cities through rural industrialization, where anchor firms will be operating and working closely with MSMEs with the youth at the center of the agenda. That is why, Madam Speaker, my government rebranded MARDEF into NEOF.
Special economic zones has been the Tonse Alliance's promise, indicating that it will narrow the trade deficit.
Another business news, the country for quite some time has been grappling with an ever-widening gap between exports and imports. The country remains a predominantly consuming and importing nation as its industry remains at an infancy stage. We have seen the country adopting a number of documents to propel growth of the private sector and export-led economy. Now, Minister of Trade, Mark Katsonga Pili, says the country is taking towards the right direction to attain the desired mark. From Mzuzu, our journalist Feston Malekezo reports.
Katsonga was speaking in Mzuzu on Monday during training of small and medium enterprises on product certification and standardization organized by Malawi Bureau of Standards. National Export Strategy 2 target is to increase exports of made in Malawi products and services through export promotion, export development, export facilitation, and organization efficiency and effectiveness.
On the government part, I think we are faring well. But the on-takers, the producers themselves, have to pull up their socks. We have to work together as government and industry so that this export strategy makes sense in the short, medium, and long term. Now, when we combine the two, the opening up of Africa as a single free trade area and our export strategy, I can see lots and lots of benefits that is providing. We work for it as industry. I'm personally geared for that. I believe we can do it. I'll be everywhere to both small-scale industries, SMEs, and the big industries.
It is expected that once implemented, the African Continental Free Trade Area will present a major opportunity for African countries to bring 30 million people out of extreme poverty. Malawi Bureau of Standards Director General Simon Mandala says they have trained about 243 entrepreneurs with an expectation to reach 304 people by the end of the year on the provisions of standards throughout Malawi. Mandala says the aim is to help entrepreneurs produce standard products which would be competitive on block and international market.
The impression is that there is positive feedback that we are getting from MSMEs because we've trained a number of them by now, and the number of products that we've certified, products that are produced by the MSMEs that we have trained, the number that we have certified is growing and continues to grow for us. We take that as a success indicator, and we believe that if we continue like this for the next few years, a great impact will be there, and then in the process, flourishing of MSMEs, hence creating jobs, because we'll be talking of volumes now, and you need people to help you in the production.
Roderick Chataika, Chief Executive Officer for Small and Medium Enterprises Development Institute, CIMED, concurs with Mandala, saying if SMEs can get their products standardized, it would be easier for them to penetrate the market.
Training is actually very critical because it will capacitate the small medium enterprises to be able to get their products certified, and they will learn actually the processes that they need to do in order to follow the certification process, and up to the stage where they get the standardization. Now, if they get the standardization and that the product is certified, it means now they can trade onto the market. They can penetrate supermarkets, so there is a huge local domestic market.
One of the participants was Dosekeo Mwenichanya of Kellogg's Wines.
As of now, I think it's really difficult. As small and medium enterprises, we are really small in terms of capital, in terms of knowledge, machinery, and the like. So I think the ground is really tough for us, but I think this gives us an advantage. The training is subsidized, it's practically free, which most of us wouldn't have been able to afford because our as I mentioned, our capital is really limited. So I think this makes it at least much better for us.
Most